In the west of Ireland, there is a forest that doesn't appear on any map. People say it attracts lost souls like flames draw moths. What lies deep within it, no one knows for sure, as those who wander in never return. A young man named John was running through the forest, but as the sun set, his last hope of escape faded away. Ahead of him stood a sign that read "Point of No Return." The sky was filled with a flock of birds. Realizing there was no way out, John began climbing a tree, but at some point he lost his grip and fell. Regaining consciousness, he crawled toward one of the trees. Suddenly a growl came from the thicket. Something was approaching. John couldn't believe his eyes. The next moment something grabbed him and dragged him into the darkness. The forest was filled with cries for help. In the Irish town of Galway, a 28-year-old American woman named Mina works at a pet shop and enjoys drawing. She smokes, though the animals dislike the smell. A co-worker showed Mina a rare parrot that was to be sent to the zoo in Belfast. The trip would take about a day. Mina agreed to deliver the bird tomorrow. Mina lives alone in a modest apartment and still struggles to come to terms with her mother's demise 15 years ago. That evening, Mina put on a dark wig and went to a local bar. When a guy struck up a conversation with her, she introduced herself as Carolina, a ballerina. The next morning Mina set out on her journey, using the parrot as a companion for conversation. She shared that she sometimes liked to change her image, feeling that people wouldn't accept her true self. The road was lined with picturesque landscapes. At a gas station, Mina received a voice message from her twin sister, Lucy, whom she hadn't spoken to in a long time. Lucy, a mother of 2 boys, was worried about Mina, who still hadn't let go of the past after all these years. Incidentally, people often disappear in this area, but Mina wasn't particularly concerned. She couldn't stop thinking about Lucy's message. Mina noticed that the forest around her was becoming strange. At one point her cell signal vanished, and the car stalled. Mina panicked, clearly unprepared for such an outcome. She stepped out of the car, looking around. The trees here weren't lush and green but dry and leafless. Mina slowly moved forward and came across a sign that read "Point of No Return." She thought someone must live nearby, and taking her bag and the parrot's cage, went to seek help. But no one responded, and Mina decided it was better to turn back. However, when she returned to where her car had been, it was gone. For a while Mina wandered through the forest, unsure of what was happening. The sun was about to set. Giving up, the girl sat down on the ground. In case this was the end, she decided to name the parrot Darwin. A flock of birds suddenly took to the sky, startling Mina. Then the ground began to shake, and a growl emerged from the forest. Seeing a woman in the distance, Mina followed her, pleading for help. This led her to a building. The elderly woman shouted to Mina that if she wanted to live, she should run inside. Mina did as she was told and found herself in the strange structure. Inside, besides the elderly woman Madeline, there were 2 others, a young woman named Sierra and a young man named Daniel. They called the place the cage and said they too had once gotten lost, just like Mina. Madeline announced that they didn't have much time, but in any case, the ones they called the Watchers would be pleased to see a new face. Judging by the sounds, something was approaching. Madeline and the others tried to calm Mina, who was terrified. They explained that the Watchers couldn't enter but only observe them through a one-way mirror. They would remain here until sunrise. Of course, all this sounded utterly bizarre to Mina. Madeline asked the girl to step forward. Mina heard applause. The auditorium was filled with eerie creatures, invisible to the people present behind the mirror. In the morning Mina planned to go home, though the others tried to dissuade her. Mina was determined to fix her car and leave this cursed place. Suddenly she heard a whisper from the forest, calling her name. Turning around, Mina saw a silhouette. This made her run, navigating by the sun. Reaching an open area, Mina saw nothing but endless forest around her. It all looked as though there was no way out. Madeline caught up with Mina, telling her that many people before her had tried to escape, including them, but in vain. Leading Mina along, Madeline explained that the forest causes hallucinations. People are prey here, but if you're careful, you can learn to survive. The signs marked "Point of No Return," scattered throughout the forest, form an almost perfect circle and are about half a day's journey from the cage. If someone crosses the boundary of that circle, there's no way back. Mina wondered who put up the signs. Madeline replied that Sierra and Daniel call him the professor. Sunset was approaching, so it was time to head back. The inhabitants of the so-called cage put on performances every night for the Watchers. This is exactly what they want, just to observe people. Mina understood that the goal was to act natural, but she couldn't accept this new reality. It all seemed utterly absurd. Since the Watchers dislike daylight, the forest is safe for walks during the day. Mina and Sierra went to collect medicinal herbs for Daniel, who was suffering from a migraine. Sierra shared that her husband John had left 6 days ago and hadn't returned yet. But the girl believed he was okay. Mina asked what the Watchers wanted from them. Sierra didn't have an answer, but Madeline believed that just seeing the Watchers could drive a person insane. During the day, the Watchers hide in burrows connected underground like a system of tunnels. As long as the sun is shining, there's nothing to fear. When asked how long she'd been here, Sierra couldn't give an exact answer. Perhaps about 5 months. Later, everyone explained the rules to Mina. Never turn your back on the mirror, never open the door for anyone, never approach the burrows, and always stay in the light. Those who break the rules can kiss their lives goodbye. That night, everything happened as it had the night before. Mina was curious about what those on the other side of the mirror looked like. Pressing her ear to the glass, she heard a growl, which frightened her. Suddenly the Watchers started pounding on the mirror, causing Mina to panic even more. Madeline urged her to stay calm. The next day Mina went hunting with Daniel. Ever since George disappeared, Danny had been hunting alone. Madeline, who used to teach at a university, had been in the forest the longest. Danny had been here for a little over 8 months and had never seen a single Watcher. According to Madeline, no one had survived an encounter with the Watchers, but Mina didn't really believe her. When Mina approached one of the burrows, Danny shouted that it was a very bad idea. But Mina was no longer willing to follow Madeline's rules, determined to find out who the Watchers really were. Danny helped her descend into the burrow using a rope. Once inside the tunnel, Danny, still above, reminded her to stay in the light. Mina lit a lighter and saw various objects in front of her, including old newspapers, a video camera, toys and more. Danny helped her haul a bicycle to the surface. Suddenly Mina heard growling behind her and slowly turned around, calling for Daniel. Something was approaching Mina, but Daniel managed to lower the rope in time. They lied to Madeline, saying they'd found the bicycle under a large rock. The older woman sensed that Mina was hiding something, but she denied it. Thanks to a power source, Daniel managed to connect the camera to a television. If they placed the camera outside, they could see the Watchers. By nightfall everyone gathered around the table. By that time the Watchers should have appeared, but they were still nowhere to be seen. Suddenly sounds came from just outside the door. Danny saw a person on the television screen, but Madeline was sure it was a trap, as no one had ever survived in the forest after sunset. At that moment Madeline asked Mina to confess whether she had broken the rules. Hearing her husband's voice, Sierra was about to open the door, but Madeline stopped her, claiming it wasn't John but a lure. Meanwhile, John kept saying he was injured and that the Watchers were after him. Daniel agreed with Sierra that they should open the door. Mina confessed to Madeline that she had gone into the burrow during the day. Danny didn't deny being there as well. Madeline accused Mina of selfishness. Mina in turn declared that she wouldn't stay here any longer. Before Sierra opened the door, Madeline advised her to ask John a question only he would know the answer to. Barely holding back her emotions, Sierra asked John what book she was currently reading. However, the one calling himself John couldn't answer the question. Clinging to hope, Sierra asked him to turn the camera on himself. He did so, and in that very moment someone grabbed him. Then the Watchers destroyed the camera. The inhabitants of the cage took their places on the stage. The Watchers were furious and tried to break the glass. Madeline knew that if they succeeded, it would be the end for all of them. A crack appeared on the mirror, and after that, everything went quiet. The very next day Madeline returned the bicycle to the burrow, advising Mina never to break the rules again. The Watchers do not tolerate anyone taking what belongs to them. Mina recalls her childhood. One day the twin sisters' mother decided to take them for a drive. The woman was angry that Mina kept opening the car window, breaking the rules. Also, the girl constantly mocked her mother. When Mina had a tantrum, the mother became distracted from the road, and they ended up in an accident. The guilt still haunts Mina. Now she has drawn a map of the forest. Winter has arrived, the days are shorter, and the cold is harsher. Mina marked trees, still hoping to find a way out. Everyone was sinking into despair. Daniel hunted but hadn't caught anything for days. Sierra was still reeling from the loss of her husband. With each passing day their hope dwindles, but Mina tries not to show her own despair. When Sierra left for the forest without warning, Mina panicked and ran to find her. Sierra was standing at the edge of a burrow, saying that the figure outside the door that night had been John, and now she needed to be with him. Mina told Sierra she wasn't thinking clearly, just like the rest of them. Suddenly screams rang out. The girls ran toward them and witnessed Daniel attacking Madeline. He declared he would no longer follow her orders. Mina helped Madeline return to the cage, but Daniel, holding Sierra hostage, refused to open the door. The sun was almost down, meaning the Watchers would soon appear. While Sierra tried to convince Danny to open the door, Madeline and Mina hid, hoping the Watchers wouldn't notice them. But the Watchers would certainly notice 2 people missing. Sierra grew anxious that the Watchers had yet to appear. Meanwhile, one of them was directly above Madeline and Mina's hiding spot. They made no sound and didn't even breathe. Many of the eerie creatures passed by them, heading for the cage. Noticing 2 people were missing, the watchers spread out into the forest to search. Taking advantage of this, Madeline and Mina again tried to convince Daniel to open the door. In desperation, Mina shared the tragic story of her family. If Daniel didn't open the door now, guilt would haunt him for the rest of his life, just as it haunts her. Daniel finally opened the door. Madeline would have liked to teach him a lesson, but there was no time for that now. They had broken too many rules, clearly angering the watchers. Madeline revealed that she had taught mythology at a university and had deliberately come here to personally investigate the rumors about certain creatures living in this forest. One night Madeline even saw one of the watchers. It had taken on her form, but it wasn't an exact copy, it was distorted and grotesque. The watchers are an ancient species, surrounded by many legends. They observe humans to eventually take their place. Suddenly Sierra's voice came from behind the door. The watchers were copying her and the others to confuse the cage's inhabitants. The door obviously wouldn't hold for long. Only then did Madeline and the others notice a hatch to a basement under a carpet. Without hesitation, Daniel opened it. Mina volunteered to go down first, and the others followed her. As soon as they closed the hatch, the watchers shattered the glass. Meanwhile, Mina and the others found themselves in the bunker. There were enough food supplies to last for years without hunting. It seemed that someone had been studying the watchers here. Mina turned on the computer, but as expected, connecting to the internet was impossible. The archive contained videos in which Professor Roy Kilmartin discussed his research, which began in 2009. He was the one who built the bunker, which he called the Wonderland, as well as the cage. Each night the watchers came and stared at him, seemingly mesmerized. According to the professor, the watchers got better at mimicking his appearance with each encounter. Initially they would get details like eye size or the number of fingers wrong, but they learned quickly. This prompted Kilmartin to reinforce the glass. The professor also admitted that many people had perished during the construction of Wonderland. However, he believed these sacrifices were made in the name of science. The professor genuinely thought that by harnessing the watcher's ability to imitate, humanity could overcome death. Upon hearing this, Mina commented that he was insane. One day Kilmartin achieved the impossible by letting one of the watchers into the bunker. The professor slowly approached the creature, saying they could become good friends. But this was merely a ploy to trap the watcher. 300 days into his stay in the bunker, Kilmartin revealed in a video that he had lost all semblance of humanity. Now there was an exact replica of him upstairs, and Kilmartin intended to put an end to it. He mentioned that near one of the signs, by the riverbank, there was a boat for escape. Kilmartin advised anyone who got trapped here to flee using this boat, following a flock of birds to guide the way. He also urged whoever saw this video to break into his office at the university and destroy all records about the watchers. A minute later, the sound of 2 gunshots was heard on the video, one for the watcher, the other for Kilmartin himself. Mina suggested that they leave tomorrow. Since it would be their last night here, Sierra proposed that they all dance. Daniel eagerly joined, sharing with Sierra the story of his alcoholic and often abusive father. One night Daniel simply left home. Sierra told Daniel that if they got out of here, he could stay with her. They hugged. The next morning the group left the bunker. In the forest they followed the marks Mina had previously left on the trees. Madeline reminded everyone that the forest would do everything it could to mislead them. They reached the point of no return. There was no turning back now. Mina released the parrot from its cage to guide them. They walked through the forest all day and eventually found what seemed to be the watcher's former place of confinement. Once they had lived among humans as gods and were called fairies, but over time the roles reversed. Humans drove the watchers deep underground. Recently the fairies had managed to escape their imprisonment, but they had lost their wings and magic, making them unable to leave the forest. As night fell, the cold grew harsher, but Madeline believed they would make it. Then it began to rain. Madeline urged everyone to hurry. Above them a flock of birds flew past. They reached the river. As the professor had said, there was a boat on the shore. Suddenly Daniel heard John's cries coming from the forest. This caused him to pause while the women lowered the boat into the water. At one point they saw Daniel helping injured John to his feet. Sierra screamed that it wasn't John, but Daniel wouldn't listen. Alas, there was no time, so Madeline ordered Sierra and Mina to get in the boat immediately. The women rowed all night. At dawn, the river brought them to a road. Soon a bus heading to Galway picked them up. All the passengers eyed the 3 disheveled women warily. It seemed the worst was behind them. Mina planned to go to the university the next day and carry out Kilmartin's request. After that, they would put this story behind them forever. Mina returned to her apartment late that night, carrying the parrot's cage. After taking a shower, she recalled seeing her injured sister and lifeless mother after the car accident. As planned, the next day Mina visited the university, introducing herself as Kilmartin's niece. She was granted access to his office. There, Mina found blueprints of the bunker and many other materials, including a recorder with a voice message. In ancient times, humans and fairies coexisted, marking a golden era for humanity. Half-blood children were particularly skilled at shapeshifting. It is believed that their lineage has died out, though there is no evidence to confirm this. Among other things, Mina found photographs that shocked her. That same evening, she visited Sierra and shared her discoveries from Kilmartin's office. Those photos revealed that Kilmartin and Madeline were married. However, the Madeline Kilmartin from the photographs had perished in 2001. It seemed that Kilmartin had kept one of the watchers in the bunker not to create his own replica but to use the fairy's mimicry ability to bring his wife back. Apparently she was different from the other watchers since she could survive in sunlight. The girls resolved to confront Madeline and send the monster back where it belonged. When Sierra parked in front of the house, Mina was horrified to realize that the person inside, standing before her, wasn't Sierra. The Watcher had mastered the art of imitating humans, seeking revenge against humanity for the humiliation and banishment of the fairies. All this time the Watcher had been observing its pets, learning from them. It desired only one thing: to escape the forest. It was an outcast among its kind, earning the nickname Lightwalker. The Watcher had used the professor to achieve its goal. But when the professor planned to dispose of his test subject, the Watcher acted first. Suddenly Mina came face to face with her own replica, as if staring at her twin. The Watcher grabbed Mina, intending to live among humans in her body. In that moment Mina revealed to the Watcher why it, unlike the others, could tolerate sunlight. The truth was that the Lightwalker was a half-blood. This meant it was part human and capable of emotions such as love and forgiveness. Mina's words caused the Watcher to hesitate. At that moment wings burst from its back, and it flew away, searching for others like itself in the forest. Fortunately Sierra was unharmed. The girls hugged each other. Some time later, Mina recalled those days in the forest as if they were a dream. Occasionally she noticed the Lightwalker watching her from a crowd, disguised as different people. Mina eventually found the strength to rebuild her relationship with her sister and nephews. She even decided to keep Darwin. In the final scene, we see the Lightwalker, now in the form of a little girl. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.